Here we go, guys. Welcome. Uriel Kim here. Welcome to another episode of HPTV Live. This is Healthpreneur TV, where I'm helping you take your expertise for health or fitness and turning it into a thriving online business. Okay, today we're going to be talking about a really important topic, which is very important to grasp, and that is the notion of traffic versus conversions. Which one is more important? Do you just want to get more traffic to your website, or should you focus on conversions? And what I'm going to share with you here is really important to literally let this sink in, because this is something that I've noticed, in doing this for 11 years. I've seen the pros and cons of either one, and I've seen where focusing on the wrong thing can take you down the wrong path. So let's start off with what most people want. When I survey people, when I ask people what is the number one thing that you want more of in your business? What's the one big thing holding you back? Most people say they want more traffic, right? They want more traffic to their content, to their offers, to their website, whatever it is, they want more traffic. Here's the dilemma though. Traffic follows conversions, okay? Just remember that. Traffic follows conversions. Let's look at this in a couple different scenarios. Dave, what's going on, buddy? Whiskey and chocolate? Well, I still have half the bottle of the Blue Label if you want that. So I'll save that for you for next time. So conversions, so traffic follows conversions, right? When we think about, let's look at paid traffic for a second. So let's look at Facebook ads, because I think that's probably the easiest platform for most of us. You want to drive traffic to your website? You can easily set up an ad or multiple ads, and you can crank up your daily spend to $1,000, $1 million a day, to whatever you like, right? And you can get tons of traffic, millions of visitors per day, but you're quickly going to turn that off. Why? Because it doesn't convert, right? So if the traffic coming to your website is not converting, then all of that ad spend is going to be worthless. Let's look at another example. Let's say you're blogging, you're using content as part of your game plan for your building your business, which all of us should, because it's massively important. And let's say you want to focus on guest blogging, guest posting, doing all sorts of backlink, work SEO wise, and maybe spending some Facebook ads back to your content. But again, on your content, what do people do after they read? Do they leave the site, or do they actually opt in and join your email list? And here's something interesting. A study by the Aberdeen Group, which is kind of a big digital analytical group, they found that 98% of people that visit a website will bounce in 15 seconds or less and never come back. Okay, so that's out of 100 people that come to your website, 2 or less will stick around, and the average opt-in rate on a blog is 1%. So again, if conversions are not there, there's no sense in doing all the work on traffic. I've consulted with a number of people in our space who get millions and millions of unique visitors to their blog every single month. The type of traffic that anybody would die for, literally. But you look at how big their email list is. You look at what their revenues are, and it's excuse me? There's such a huge disconnect. So they have all this traffic, but they have no idea what to do with it. So we looked at paid advertising. We looked at content. Let's look at affiliates and joint ventures. So affiliate marketing has been obviously a big thing in the health and fitness space online since I started. It was, part of how we, earned a lot of our money for a long period of time. And if you ask somebody to promote your offer, well, here's the big thing. They can send you, again, if they're a big influencer, they can send you a lot of traffic. But again, if it doesn't convert, they will quickly turn off that traffic. So they might send a test email. If it does well, they'll send again. So I'll use the example of Truth About Cancer. So the Truth About Cancer, you guys have probably seen the documentaries or the docu-series that they've done over the past couple of years. Huge email list, huge company. And so we had I don't have it right here, but we've got a free cookbook that we did a launch for this past summer. And we tested things out properly ahead of time, and it did really well with pretty much all of our affiliates and joint venture partners who promoted it during the launch. Now, Truth About Cancer couldn't promote during the launch because they had some other commitments. So a couple months later, they sent out a test email to the offer, and it did pretty well for them. and they sent a small segment, a very, very small segment of their list as a kind of like dipping their toe in the water to see if it was going to be worthwhile. It did pretty well for them. So a couple of weeks later, they sent a full-blown email to what I believe is, probably their whole list, and it was insane. It was insane to see what happened with that in terms of the commissions for us, in terms of the commissions for them. And I'm talking about more money than some people make in a year from one email. And I mean, it's baffling to see what can happen when you send that amount of traffic. But the key is that traffic never would have come to our page, never would have come to our offer had the conversions not been there. So my argument, and hopefully it's not an argument, hopefully it's just an understanding, is that conversions must come first. And this is one of the things that I've seen, and the last we've done three marketing makeovers now in the past couple months, just on our HPT live here. And what I've seen the most of, the biggest dilemma has been the offer, is the messaging. And obviously all of that is tied in with the conversion, right? Because if your offer is not clear, if the messaging isn't clear, if the value proposition isn't clear and something people want, well, they're not going to convert. They're not going to opt in. They're not going to buy your thing. And that obviously means that you can't turn up the traffic. Right? Everyone wants more traffic, but again, if you don't have the conversions, then you can't justify getting more traffic. So I hope that makes sense to you. Let's talk about conversions here, because if conversions are the most important thing, well, let's look at how do we increase conversions. Well, I'm not going to talk about testing like the blue button versus the green button, because all that stuff is just, it doesn't really make that big of a difference in the long term, right? I mean, maybe it'll give you a percentage point increase here and there. But we want to think about the big thing, which is really the offer, crafting an offer that compels people to opt in or pay you money, right? So again, this is something that I'm actually creating an entire one-day workshop around, because I can't do it justice, in the next 10 minutes. But this is so important. It's the biggest missing element to almost all businesses. And this is still the reason that we have a lot of products in our business that I created like 9 years ago that don't even sell to our own business, to our own list, because I created them at a time where I created the sales copy and the offer at a time where I really didn't understand this stuff. And so, slowly but surely, we're having to go back to all those products. The products are amazing. We don't have to touch those, but we need to change the messaging, the offer, the positioning to improve conversions, to make it worthwhile for us to even send to our own products. So let's look at one or two elements here, okay? So first and foremost, we want to look at when we're creating an offer, whether, again, free or paid, really like the dynamics are the same, okay? First and foremost, you have to identify this, like a very targeted avatar. Who is it you're speaking to? Right? We did a marketing makeover a few months ago with one of our health learners who was wanting to fill up more people in his group training classes, right? Like in the studio, getting more people into his fitness classes. And he was targeting moms, but nowhere in his copy, in his, on his landing page, did he say, attention moms living in Hollywood, right? And that was his avatar. So you really want to be specific with who you're speaking to. And that's important because when people land on your page, again, whether it's to opt in or buy something, they have to feel that this is for them. The most important thing to remember when it comes to marketing is that nobody cares about you. All they care about is themselves, right? So you always want to think about what's in it for them, who is them, and then cater your message to them. So if we're talking about, moms living in Hollywood, well, let's look right out front. Say, attention, moms over 35 living in Hollywood. Okay. Online, if you have a product, if you have a service, whoever it is you want to speak to, right? So like Dave, my good friend here, he specializes in helping coaches in the French market take their business to the next level. So that is his, that's his arena, right? So if he said, hey, I'm going to help you build your business, and it's like, well, who's we, right? But if he calls out coaches who are in the French market, right, that's a lot more specific. If we look at, for instance, the new all-day fat burning cookbook, right? Who is this for? Well, this is actually, it's a cookbook, and it's for, a couple. I mean, it really could be for a lot of different people, right? But what I'm going to do with this is I'm basically saying, listen, if you are a man or a woman who loves great food and who wants to burn fat and lose weight in the process, this cookbook is for you. Now, I could also say, because the recipes are all anti-inflammatory based on real foods, all the same protocols that would be beneficial for somebody looking to have more energy, I could say, listen, if you're a man or woman who wants to have more energy without relying on caffeine, these recipes will help you do that. Now, it just so happens that I have another book that I wrote on the very topic, so I don't want to cannibalize my own products with that type of positioning. But the key here is to really identify, and this is an exercise that I may have taken you guys through, is the 4 W's, which I've actually upgraded now to the 5 W's. So if you're coming to my Content Mastery Workshop in January, then you'll get the upgraded version. But essentially, it's like, who are you speaking to? Okay. The second thing with that is, what is their biggest pain point? What is the big thing that they're struggling with? And this is why it's so important as the CEO of your business, as the entrepreneur of your business. It's very important, and especially as you get bigger, even more so important, is to stay super connected with your customer base. Interact with them on Facebook. Like, yes, it kind of sounds like a waste of time if you're wasting your time on social, but I get so much value from you guys inside the Healthpreneur group because I get to know more about you. I get to see the language patterns you're using. What are the challenges? What are the successes that you're having? And I'm able to speak to you, hopefully, a little bit more congruent with what matters to you most. So you want to really figure out what is the number one pain point for your audience. Now, within the Healthpreneur group here, there's people who are starting their business. There are people who are more advanced in their business. So there's going to be a lot of different pain points. So with one specific offer, you need to be very specific with the pain or the desire, or the pain that's going to overcome, or the desire it's going to help them meet, right? So if you've got a broad list of people or a broad audience, that's cool, right? You can have different offerings for different segments of those individuals. We're not saying you have to have one product that serves everybody, right? So for instance, I just lost my train of thought. So you want to figure out their number one pain points, okay? And then you want to really craft the offer around that. Don't see the biggest dilemma is that, and again, I made this mistake when I was starting off, is that I said, I have this idea, I'm going to create a product because I think it's cool. I think people would want this. I think people need this. So I created it, and then guess what? Nobody wanted it. And that's because I was doing things backwards. I was creating the product before the marketing. And the marketing, guys, is everything. Marketing is everything. It's literally 80% of your success online is going to be dictated by your ability to market properly. And when I say market, I'm not talking about being a sleazy douchebag, using all sorts of weird sales tactics. I'm literally saying get to know your audience, show them that you care, educate them in a way that takes them from here to there, and naturally they'll want to do business with you. That's pretty much the way I see marketing. It's really an educational relationship building process. So that's where you need to spend most of your time. Only once you get to know your audience better, only once you've asked them what they want, only when they know their obstacles, or their obstacles, their challenges, their pain points, should you consider crafting an offer, whether it's free or paid. Does that make sense? That's really, I'm telling you, it's going to save you a lot of wasted time and hassle, right? Because initially, as you're developing your audience, you're probably better off not even having any products. Just build the relationships, get to know your marketplace. Then get involved with them to see, like, what is it you guys want? What don't you want? What's an obstacle? What's a challenge? From their feedback, then you start creating your offers, free or paid, right? Because now you're basically saying, okay, you guys are telling me about this? Cool. Unless you got some magical insight like Steve Jobs did, right? Nobody knew they wanted an iPod. It didn't even exist, right? I was using a CD player, a Walkman back in the day. But he had the insight to be like, you know what, this would be an innovation that would make people's lives a lot easier. So if you have that type of insight, and I think that's part of our genius as entrepreneurs, is to also be able to tap into giving people what they don't even know they want yet. So there's an element to that, but for the most part, I think that's something that really comes again with knowing your marketplace really, really well. So that's the first thing with respect to your conversions, is knowing your marketplace, knowing their number one pain points. And then I'll finish with this, again, just for the sake of time, is you need to clearly articulate your unique value proposition or your product's unique selling proposition. So a unique value proposition is really about when we're comparing or when we're looking at a business, right? You go to a business, ideally on their homepage, it should say some type of statement. That statement should be not join my newsletter, but here's what this business is all about and here's how it benefits you. All right, so I'll just give you an example from my own business. So my Uriel Kane blog, it's making fit and healthy simple again so you can live a great life in a body you love, right? I could have said, I'm gonna help you have more energy, lose weight, blah, blah, blah. I could have done all that, but I said, listen, at a meta level, what I do is I make fit and healthy simple so you can live a great life, right? And a great life could be whatever that means to you in a body you love, right? Because we know that a lot of women, especially a lot of women, feel shameful about their bodies. They don't feel comfortable in it. So we want to give them tools and resources to help them feel better about themselves in the process. So that's the value proposition there. For Healthpreneur, it's helping you turn your expertise for health or fitness into a thriving online business that creates more impact, income, and freedom. Okay, so that's the value proposition there. So the value proposition is essentially this: what you do and how it benefits the end user. Okay? So think about that. What it is you do, what's your magical power, and how it benefits the end user. So you can think about a transition like this. I do this so that this. I do this, or we do this, which means, so that, we talked about this last week or the week before, the transition between feature and benefit. So that, ... is a transition from a feature to a benefit, which means is another transition from a feature to a benefit. Another way you can look at it is we do this, or we help you achieve this, right? This end result, this outcome, without XYZ. So it's like you get the goodness without the stuff you don't want. Those are some simple formulas for creating a simple value proposition. Excuse me one second. It's always fun when you can, wipe your nose on a live stream. That's always good times, right? Okay, so the thing is, when we're looking at a product, right? A product should be, if you have a book, a workout, some type of thing, most likely it's not the only thing, workout or diet, on the market. Especially in our space, there's a lot of people doing a lot of the same stuff. So you have to, first and foremost, be able to articulate how your thing is different and better, specifically for the end user, and get that across really clearly. And this is where you see a lot of things like, I'm not going to go too advanced here, but like things like mechanism. So the big idea behind the product. So for instance, the all-day fat burning diet, okay? This is one of thousands of diets on the market. What makes this one different? Well, what makes this different is this right here, the 5-day food cycling formula that resets your metabolism to lose up to 5 pounds per week. That is essentially the unique selling proposition of this book. So a unique selling proposition is often used and slightly different from a unique value proposition. Unique selling proposition is usually used when we're comparing products or comparing features of products, okay? So the mechanism here is the 5-day food cycling formula. If I just said, eat more vegetables, do a little bit of this, a little bit of that, then it's essentially just another diet. But what I'm doing here, what I've done here, is I've included a mechanism. What is responsible? How do you get the results? The answer to that is your mechanism. It's your unique method. And that is what you really want to highlight when you are offering anything to your prospective marketplace. How do you get results for people? Well, I take them through this process, and that's it. Great, we'll give that process a name, because in naming it, what you essentially do is you create a unique method or a mechanism that only you have. Nobody has the 5-day food cycling formula. Nobody in the world. Other people talk about food cycling, caloric cycling, carb cycling, but nobody talks about the 5-day food cycling formula in the way that I do that. Okay? My buddy Brad Pilon has a program called Eat, Stop, Eat. Now, the name of the book is essentially the mechanism of the program, which is really cool. It's essentially eat, and then don't eat, and then eat again. There are a lot of people that talk about intermittent fasting, but he has essentially coined a phrase, a term, eat, stop, eat, which is now really, more or less a type of fasting, which is, fasting after dinner until the next day. And that's different from 16-8 or the warrior diet, which again talk about intermittent fasting, but in their own way. So I'm going to leave you with that. I want you to think about those different tools and kind of thinking ideas for your stuff today. And this is really where the heavy lifting is done. Okay, if you spend more of your time on this stuff, everything else becomes a lot easier, right? The toughest part for most people is to really just sit down and really craft out that offer. Is really to craft out what's the messaging here? What's the unique value proposition? And this is why I do my workshops, right? So we've got our content mastery workshops in January, one in LA, one in Orlando, which is all based around helping you create content that rises above the noise. And not only that, but also helps you generate more traffic and more leads and more customers from that content. So you actually get a positive ROI from the work that you're doing. And the reason I do this in person is because of you could do this stuff. We have an online course so you can kind of learn some of it through, but working with me in person allows you and I to bounce stuff back and forth, where you can say, listen, I have this idea for this messaging component of this funnel or this thing. What do you think? And I can be like, yeah, that's a terrible idea. Or, yeah, that's good. Let's work on this. Let's try this. And just that alone, that back and forth can make a huge difference, because if you're doing this stuff on your own and then putting it out there, that's ultimately the best way is obviously tested in the marketplace. But if you can get some initial and immediate feedback on what may work better, that can save you a lot of time and hassle. So anyways, that's why I do what I do. That's why I love doing this stuff, because if I can help you be more effective with your marketing, then you can impact more people. And that's really what this is all about, okay? So I hope you guys have enjoyed this HPTV Live Hangouts. If you're catching the replay, then, you're catching the replay, I guess, right? If you're on YouTube watching this, remember to subscribe, share, like if you've enjoyed this. And remember to join us back at the blog, healthpreneurgroup.com. We're posting up all these HPTV Live replays on the blog as well. And there's obviously some more awesome content to help you really build an amazing business online that serves a lot of people and allows you to really enjoy the life that you deserve in the process. So thank you guys so much. Hopefully this has found you well. Hopefully it's got the wheels turning and you can now work on some of this stuff. Have an awesome day. I'll speak to you next Wednesday, same bad time, same bad channel, and I'll see you then.